I'm Ric Edelman. If you want to be sure to reach your financial goals, you've got to have a dream. Well, how about cruising the streets in a Ferrari? We'll show you how you can do it today and still have enough money to retire. Plus, where to put your emergency cash reserves, how to evaluate a financial advisor, and why legendary boxing promoter Bob Arum can't retire. I'll give you a hint. It's not because he needs the money. Stick around for this week's edition of The Truth About Money.
Best-selling author and founder of one of the nation's largest financial planning firms, Ric Edelman.
It's the sound that a lot of guys and gals love to hear. It's the sound emanating from the exhaust pipes of a supercar. To go listen to that sound, I sent, who else, the producer of my weekly radio show, Rick Fowler, to, where else, the car-crazy state of California.
We're sitting in the showroom at Club Sportiva in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're with Sia Bani. He is the co-owner of Club Sportiva. Where did you come up with the idea to rent exotic sports cars to virtually anyone?
My partner and I are both entrepreneurs at heart, and being able to revamp the business model, make it a successful, sustainable business, and open it up to the public. In the past, only a select few could gain access to exotic cars. And one of the areas where we take pride in this revamp of this business, almost anyone can get a taste of an exotic car.
How many cars do you have available to choose from?
Currently 26 cars, anywhere from Lotus Elises, a 550 Spider replica, a Lamborghini Gallardo.
What's the total value of the fleet?
Over $1.5 million.
Of the cars, is there one particular standout car?
Be the 458 Italia. So we don't take members under the age of 25. We do a full background check in terms of insurance and driving record to make sure our drivers are responsible drivers. We wouldn't want the cars to get damaged, and we wouldn't want people hurting themselves. And as you can imagine, in some of these cars, that's easily doable.
Yeah, hi, Rick. I'm also Rick.
Great to be here. Thank you.
The co-owner.
Awesome.
And what I'd like to do is explain a few of the controls in this Ferrari 458 Italia. The speedometer is an optional gauge. You can turn it off. Gives you an idea of the type of car this is.
So we have both male and female. They're professionals, they're business owners, doctors, dentists, lawyers, CEOs of some of the major Silicon Valley companies. And at the same time, we have members that just love cars and understand that this is the most economical way to get access to a fleet of exotics. I used to think I was a car nut until I interacted with our customers. Their lifelong dream has been drive a Ferrari, and we're enabling that.
And if you like, go ahead and punch it down this road.
This is what they live and breathe, and to enable them to enjoy it is just a lot of fun.
I had a GTO 64 Pontiac, and it was kind of a similar feel to it, you know? Well, sort of.
You were driving that car like a little old lady.
It was on my insurance.
And that's really a big part of it, isn't it? When you rent these cars, it's your insurance policy, not theirs, isn't it?
Before we drove the car, we did an inspection of every little corner of the car, the wheel rims, everything, to make sure there was no damage before I went out. So
Because
ultimately,
when you came back, they were going to check it again.
Absolutely.
And they were going to give you a bill for any damage whatsoever.
That's the idea.
So the neat thing, though, is that each of these cars are hundreds of thousands of dollars. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Maseratis, Lotus, and so on. And most people who own cars like this basically have them in their garages most of the time. I mean, this isn't the only car that people own when they own one of these things. It's the second or the third or the fourth car. So they only get driven a few times a year. Very few miles are put on these cars. And yet they're paying for the full car. So it really does make a lot of sense. If you're going to want it for a given weekend, go rent it for the weekend instead of buying the whole car.
Absolutely. And if you have a car like this, they do a timeshare program. So you can put your car into the pool and then you can drive somebody else's really cool car that maybe you've always wanted to drive.
So instead of having to choose between the Lamborghini and the Ferrari, you get to drive both.
Or any of the other cars in the fleet.
This is only available in certain cities, I would assume.
They're in California in several locations now and looking to expand.
And I would assume there are some competitors. It would strike me that New York and Florida would probably be ideal cities. I find it hard to believe that they're going to open a franchise location in Iowa anytime soon.
Not at the daily rates.
So what does it cost to rent one of these cars for the day?
If you want to take out the Italia that I had, $24.95 a day. That's $2,495 a day.
So when you get the car for the day, you can go anywhere you want, do anything you want, as long as you bring it back on time and unscratched.
In one piece, absolutely. If you want to go on the low end, the Aston Martin DB9 convertible, $1,095. The new electric Tesla that everybody's talking about, $749 for the day. So you can get in under $2,000.
Will they let you take the car out on the track?
The idea is that you obey the speed limit.
And of course, that's exactly what everybody does driving one of these exotics. Rick, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for such a difficult assignment.
Which of the following is suitable for cash reserves? Life insurance, a fixed annuity, U.S. Treasury bonds, or a money market account? We'll be back with the answer in just a few minutes.
At a recent conference, investment advisors were asked just one question. What did they think of equity index annuities?
I think they're marketed. Probably one of the most detrimental to our business is the marketing of equity index annuities. I think the annuities themselves are just another investment tool that can be appropriate in some cases.
I think they're a ripoff. Basically, they're designed to make the salesperson money and the insurance company money, and you're the last person on the totem pole.
Well, I'd first refer you to a good psychologist.
Oh, gosh, don't get me started. Boy, it is one of the most challenging areas right now because people don't understand what they're getting involved in. They think they're getting something for nothing, and in this industry, there is never a time that you're going to be able to get something for nothing.
They can make sense in certain situations, but not today.
Unnecessary. They are a little overpriced and inefficient and tend to underperform what you may need.
The correct answer is that of all these options, only a money market account is a suitable place to keep your cash reserves, the money you need to have totally secure and available quickly in an emergency.
Marvin, welcome to the show. How are you?
My question concerns a general obligation Maryland state bond that I have.
Okay.
It's paying 5%. It matures in 2020, and it's callable in August of 2017. I paid about $15,000 for it, which was about par.
Okay.
Now it's worth close to $18,000.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, should I hold it? If things...
No, Marvin, it's real simple. You should sell this bond, and let me explain to you why. First, let me help everybody understand what we're talking about. When you buy a municipal bond, you generally buy them at face value, or what you refer to as par. $10,000 bond, you pay $10,000 for it. When it matures, you get your $10,000 back. And in the meantime, you get your annual interest. In your case, 5% per year on a tax-free basis. What's the taxable equivalent yield of 5% these days?
7 or 8%.
Yes. So that's pretty darn good. He's earning basically the same. He'd have to be earning 8% on a treasury
Yeah.
to be making what he's making in his muni. So this is one heck of a deal he's got. But as you noted, Marvin, the state of Maryland has the right to give you your money back sooner than the maturity date of 2020. They can give you your money back in 2017. And when they do, they're only going to give you your money back with a tiny little bit of a premium. Right now, you could sell the bond for a huge premium, and that premium disappears if the state gives you your money back either at call date or maturity date. Therefore, sell the bond. Grab that premium while you can. No?
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right, because we're talking about a situation where he's got almost a 20% premium in this bond at this point. Well, the interest rate is 5%, but it's only guaranteed for a few more years. He can take that money now, and then he could go do something else with that money. He's got the profit in his hand.
And he could just buy more bonds and keep that profit forever. And so there's absolutely no question that, Marvin, you should sell this bond while you can at this premium price. And this is applicable to anybody owning bonds at a premium today. The premium is a short-lived phenomenon due to the decline in interest rates recently. It's going to disappear. You need to act on this, and the sooner you act on it, I think the better off you're going to be.
Well, and this has been a very successful investment for Marvin. Why? Well, because during the period at which from he bought it until now, interest rates have declined.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to repeat itself. In other words, I don't think Marvin should look at it and say, wow, that worked great. I'm going to do the same exact strategy this time. Because at this time, he might be in an upward moving interest rate environment. And the opposite can happen.
That's exactly right, Brennan. And I'll take it a step further. For Marvin to think that the premium will get even better from here, that's also probably wishful thinking. So
well, there's what we call a time decay, because the closer he gets to it being callable, the less somebody's willing to pay that premium because they know it's callable.
Town after a road trip recently, and my mother had bought a new lamp for the living room, and I said, "Oh my God, Ma, that's a gorgeous lamp. Where'd you get that?" She said, "Don't worry about where I got it, Aaron, because we have another one just like it now upstairs in our bedroom. And if something ever happens to me and your dad, you'll have a matching set." I was like, "Wow, thanks, Mom. That's an awesome way for me to get 2 new lamps." Yeah. Or you could just tell me where you bought it like I asked you. You and Daddy could live. See?
If you do have a financial advisor now, how should you gauge success with that relationship?
How can you verify that the advisor you've got is one who's doing you a good job? Well, there are a couple of ways to do this. Number one is fundamentally the relationship. Are you happy to know that you're going to be meeting or talking with your advisor? When your advisor calls you, are you happy to receive the call, or do you cringe? That's the first warning sign. You ought to be in a good relationship with your advisor, because this is a process over the course of your lifetime. Financial planning isn't a one-time product that you buy and put on the shelf. So this ongoing relationship should be a pleasant one. Second, examine the results of the advisor 2 ways: in absolute terms and in relative terms. In absolute terms, which is the most important, it's a real simple question. Am I achieving my goals via this advisor? When our clients come to us, it's because they're trying to save money for college for kids and their own retirement and some other objectives. Well, are we on track to meeting those goals? In absolute terms, it doesn't matter what the stock market does. It doesn't matter what other investments do. It doesn't matter how my brother-in-law does. As long as I'm on track for meeting my goals, in absolute terms, things should be pretty good. So that's one way of evaluating it. In absolute terms, are we on track? Second is on relative terms. Based on the risk I'm taking with my investments, is the return that I'm receiving comparable to what is available in the industry? Your advisor should be able to benchmark your investment results to other investments of a similar style in terms of return and risk, to give you an idea as to whether you're making as much money as you should be making relative to your goals and objectives and risk tolerance. So you should be able to compare very easily your return against benchmarks, against the competition, to verify that your advisor is competitive in doing the job necessary so that you can, in absolute terms, meet your goals. So compare the relationship, evaluate that, how happy are you dealing with that advisor, and look at it in absolute and relative terms, and it should be pretty easy for you to know whether or not you're happy with that advisor.
Thanks.
Money will change you. Money's going to change. You've all heard that. Money changes you. Well, that's the whole point, okay? I'm a poor, sexless loser. Change is what I want, all right? I don't want status quo. I want completely different, all right? Money can't buy you true happiness. Neither can food stamps. I've tried, okay? Oh, for the 90s on that, okay? With money, you never know who your true friends are. I know who my true friends are now, and I don't like them, all right? They're broke like me, okay? I want some fake, false, rich friends that are cool, okay?
Hi, Rick, I have a question for you. Will real estate ever be a good investment again?
That's a great question. The answer, though, should be obvious. Real estate not only one day will be a good investment, it already is. The only people for whom real estate has been a bad investment are people who bought real estate in 2004, 2005, 2006 at the top of the market and sold it in 2008 and 2009 and 2010 at the bottom of the market. But if you bought real estate 20 years ago, you've got fabulous gains. If you bought real estate in 07 or 08 or 09 after prices had fallen, you again have fabulous gains. The only people who found that real estate wasn't a good investment were the unlucky ones or the cocky ones who bought real estate at the market high, expecting to double their investment in short order. Of course, that's not how proper investment strategies work. So as long as you have the proper investment outlook, meaning long term, in the case of real estate, at least 7 to 10 years, then real estate can be a fine investment. Let's take it a step further and assume that you're not talking about real estate as an investment, but rather as a place to live. Should you buy real estate as a home as opposed to renting somebody else's property? Again, the answer is sure, provided that you can stay in that home for the long term, 7 to 10 years. Owning real estate's expensive. You've got property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. You're going to spend money as a property owner you would never spend as a renter, and that's why it takes 7 to 10 years for it to be a reasonable thing to do with your cash. So is real estate a good investment? Sure, unless you bought a piece of property that wasn't. Bob Arum is already looking back at his 80th birthday. His long career went from practicing law for Bobby Kennedy to defending Muhammad Ali when he refused to be drafted. Today, he's one of the most important people in boxing. But don't think that he's now enjoying a quiet, relaxed retirement. You'll see, as I did, when I talked with him at the Las Vegas headquarters of Top Rank, the company that Bob founded almost 50 years ago. Bob, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
An essential element to boxing is the promotion side of it. I mean, these boxers are talented athletes, but they're not going to get themselves the fights without somebody to arrange all of this.
Well, the promoter is the one that puts up the money for the event, so that when we do a fight here at Top Rank, like a Pacquiao-Bradley fight, we have to invest, guarantee purses, pay all the expenses, put on the entire show.
So you're taking a very entrepreneurial role. You're taking a big gamble that you're investing in this fight to anticipate that you're going to get a significant return. How do you figure out what the purse needs to be and what's economically viable?
Well, if you're good, you're able to make fewer mistakes than not.
And how much money would you say the typical boxer is earning on an annual basis?
There is no typical boxer, you see. I mean, some boxers, who are what we call club fighters, are lucky if they make $25,000 a year, and so they have to hold other jobs. Manny Pacquiao from boxing will make, with 2 fights, 60 to 70 million.
Football, basketball, baseball have, they're kind of lumped together very often in the world of sports. Boxing tends to be on the outside of that inner circle, tends to have a reputation that isn't as illustrious as team sports. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, I mean, you have to go back in history. In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the 2 biggest sports in the United States were baseball and boxing. But the interesting thing is if you take a survey with Mexican Americans, Mexican Hispanics have 2 sports that they follow, soccer and boxing. The other 30% of the Hispanics, which we call the Caribbean Hispanics. And their two sports that they follow are baseball and boxing. And there's still a great following for boxing in the African American community. Wake up. This country is becoming so multi-ethnic that you can't look at anything, a sport, and say, well, I'm white and I'm not really that much interested in it, and therefore it's fallen from grace.
Let me change the subject a little bit and talk about you, because you represent, I think, a career history that is going to become increasingly important for everyone over time. You didn't begin in the boxing field. You're a Harvard-educated attorney, and all of a sudden you discovered the world of boxing. Talk about that.
I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Attorney General was Robert Kennedy. And he had gotten information that this attorney in New York who was promoting the first Patterson-Liston fight was going to take the money outside of the country and pay Patterson from one of his companies on a deferred payment basis. Something, by the way, which is legal now. But it wasn't then, yeah. So on that basis, I handled the seizure of all the funds from the closed circuit box offices. And when I left the U.S. Attorney's Office 3 or 4 years later, a company that was doing television on boxing hired me as their attorney. And in that capacity, I met this great football player, Jim Brown. And Jim told me that I ought to be a promoter, not a lawyer for these people. And I said, Jim, I've never even seen a boxing match. He said, it doesn't matter, you know all about the business. And before I knew it, I became Ali's attorney and promoter. And I was going to do it just for like a one-off type of thing, just for, you know, just to see what it was like. And of course, that's when Ali said, I got nothing against the Viet Cong, and we got caught up in the political maelstrom, and I wasn't going to back down, and it's become my life.
And now let's look at the other end of the spectrum. You're in your 80s, and you're still going strong. You're as excited about your field and your company as ever. Your offices are lined with all of these posters and memorabilia from the field of boxing. You have no intention of slowing down?
As long as I enjoy what I'm doing and having fun doing what I'm doing, and I'm able to perform, then I'm going to do it. I mean, what could be better?
Bob, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Before we go, a few thoughts on my interview with Bob Arum. That is one determined, tough guy. When his client Muhammad Ali was attacked for his political stance, Bob stood up and helped Ali fight back. When I asked Bob about the viability of boxing in today's world, he gave an energetic analysis on our changing ethnic balance. And even though everyone knows that you don't keep working when you're over 80 years old, Bob is, and said, so long as I keep enjoying what I'm doing, then I'm gonna keep on doing. Well, when you think about it, those aren't bad words to live by. And that is the truth about money. I'm Ric Edelman. See you next week.